Here's what happened. Emotions are allies, not enemies. I'm going to talk about how you can use your emotions to strengthen your decision making for your business and then just make better decisions overall for your life. I'm going to start with the old model of thinking. I had this for many years. You be having this right now. And I'm going to break down how an emotion can have multiple meanings. That's really important to figure out how to interpret the right meaning for you, for your situation with these emotions, rather than putting these emotions into a box having just one sole meaning, the all-knowing meaning for these emotions. I don't believe in that. I think there's nuance here. And then I'm going to share a new insight for a model you're familiar with on the show. It's the pressure balloon model. But before all of that, I really would have liked to have learned this in school, what I'm going to share with you. It probably would have saved me over the years, I'm thinking back, hundreds of thousands of dollars, ton of energy, and a lot of time spent battling with my thoughts. So if there's any way this can help you out in one of those three areas, I really hope it does, because you can forget as you're working on your business that past experiences with your emotions, they can have an impact on your present decisions. It's really important to remember that if you're not aware of what the hell's going on, that happens. That can be the default. So I want to share with you a story from high school that kept me from making better decisions in my first few years in business when I started off as a DJ. But before I do that, let me remind you, this is Make Burnout Extinct. I'm Robert David Weeks. Thank you for being here. Welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. If you haven't done it yet, you can subscribe and follow the show for the latest episodes, and it helps to make the show even better. So thank you. Back in high school, I used to play lacrosse and I would drop the ball a lot. So if you're familiar with lacrosse, they put me as a defensive midi. And when I would drop the ball and make that mistake, the coaches, they would most of the time yell at me. And then it'd be quick, like, what the hell are you doing? Like, fix this, whatever else is coming up. And then it's like, move on. Like, well, suck it up, move it on, that type of messaging. How I would feel is I'd feel angry in the moment, feel frustrated, be like, ah, shit, and pissed off. But then I wouldn't actually channel that into the game or channel that into getting better. Instead, I would just shut out that emotion because of the pain that I felt. That habit, it happened in different areas of my life as I was a kid, and then it transferred into business for me. So that caused me to not make as good decisions as I could in my business. I was leaving a lot on the table. So I don't believe in shutting the door on your emotions, the suck it up, move on messaging that men have gotten. But then I feel like recently in the past few years, there's this messaging where the pendulum swing has swung all the way in the other direction of you got to feel everything as a man, like feel all your emotions. And the issue is on one end, going back to lacrosse and like the moving on, on one end, you have disconnection that comes up, dullness of life when you're not connected, when you're not feeling those emotions. And then on the other, you have this like learned helplessness. And it's a feeling of needing a guru or a savior to come pull you out of those emotions. And I remember when I was in that time of the learned helplessness, having to rely on other people to come in, wasn't willing to take accountability and ownership. And so I believe you want to figure out the middle of the road. Your emotions, they aren't getting in the way. They're showing you the way. Then it's up to you to figure out your right way to make the decision and then follow through on it. So let me talk about an example of emotion, anger, for how you can have multiple meanings on this thing. And these are all meanings I've had with anger and as I experience this. First one could be, I'm just really hungry. You think about it. You could be just really hungry when you're angry, and then you're targeting the fridge. Like, where the hell is the food? I got to find this food. And for me, Adriana, she knows that I can get hangry if I miss breakfast and then I'm waiting a long time to eat food. I'll be like, where the hell is the protein? Like, I need some protein right now. Like, I get tense and my face would be like, oh, I need protein. Eyes are like wide open. I'm like, I got to find this food now, ASAP. So that's one way for meaning that I can put on anger. The other one is that someone goes against my values for how I do business or live my life. And the story that comes up for me with this was a friend at the time. I was helping out with a fitness event of his. And I had helped out a few times for this event, and I gotten paid for helping out. Then the third event came along and he asked if I could work for free. So I felt angry because I was like, we had set a precedent or precedents. And then this is how I'm supporting my life. And so I got angry, but I was willing to talk and figure out a solution, trying to move forward. And then I just remembered getting this vibe, that feeling that the spidey senses are like, all right, this guy isn't really being truly fully honest with me as to why, he wants me to work for free, or because I'm thinking this is going to be the biggest event yet, going to have the most income coming in, but I'm still getting this sense of like, he doesn't want to work with me. He doesn't want to continue to, have this relationship that we have in supporting, for me coming in and supporting this event. So he was made up this reason of like, I wasn't consistent with promoting the other events. And that's why he just doesn't feel like he wants to move forward. But I'm like, man, dude, there's something else here. I feel like you're not being honest with me. I don't know how to communicate that to him at the time because it can get awkward and weird with that. And so then he brings up, he's going to bring cold plunges and saunas to this event. And then that's where I interpret for that meaning of, okay, if he's bringing this stuff that's new and it's probably going to cost money, and now I'm getting the message that he values that cold plunges and saunas more than what I can bring to this event to help plan it out. And for me, that's also where I got angry. But what it did for me, for the meaning I put on it and the decision I made was like, okay, I never want to be in a position like this again, where cold plunges and saunas are valued more than the knowledge and insights and work ethic I can bring into this event. But that is where a meaning can be put on anger. If someone goes against the values. Because for me, honesty is such an important value of mine now moving forward. Because I know what lying can be like and how exhausting that can be and the effects it can have. And then the other one for a meaning could be you're implementing a new burnout proof habit into your life. I've talked about how there's this phase in the habit formation process, angry phase. It's one of the three. You have awkward, angry, and then autopilot. For me, I have a habit of getting up and moving between work time blocks. And as I've been putting in the reps for that habit, I can feel the resistance that hitting the imaginary wall, getting angry because like, I don't want to stop my flow. That's the excuse I'm making, stop my flow of the work that I'm doing. But I remember that if I don't take those breaks to reset, the moments to reset with movement, one, I'm not feeling more energized literally by moving, you're feeling more energized. And that energy you can channel back into the business, back into other areas of your life. But if I'm not doing that, by the end of the day, I'm going to feel fucking way more exhausted. And then it's going to be even harder for me to show up the next day and continue to perform and be productive and getting the work done. And I've noticed when I have those moments of resetting, then I'm actually better at the work I'm doing in the day. And then it's much easier for showing up the next day and being productive. So the trap that can happen, that you can fall into, going back to, okay, you got these multiple meanings now for these emotions. Anger is just one. You have so many other emotions. So you can see how this can get pretty complicated fast if you're not honing in on this skill. So the trap that you can fall into is that something happens. You then assign the meaning, going back to how Tony Robbins talks about this, of assigning meanings to certain things. Then the emotions, they come to the surface. And the trap is then you slam the door on these emotions. You push it back down. And you can do this in multiple different ways of distracting yourself with something, or try to numb yourself. Like how I do this is, currently is like I'll scroll on social media. So that's when I'm noticing, okay, I'm distracting myself. In the past, it'd be alcohol for me. That was another one until I stopped, over 7 years ago. I've shared that story before. But how you can imagine what's going on in the body when through this process, through the sequence of events, is that you feel this pressure initially that can come up. And that's like a balloon that is that starts to form. And when you shut the door on your emotions, those emotions can stay stuck if you're not feeling them. And I know it can be weird hearing that for the first time if you don't understand this, but emotions, they can get stuck in the body. And so what happens is that balloon fills up with stress. And then as you keep closing off these emotions, it could be the emotions. I'm trying to think of some examples like anger, guilt, the fear. That can then fill up the balloon even more with stress because you haven't addressed the emotion in the room, as I can think about it. And then when you're not feeling that, the balloon gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And your body, it has a limited capacity in the moment to hold that stress that you're feeling, that's filling up before it starts leaking out of the balloon. And usually it's in ways that make your life way more difficult than it has to. So some examples of what could come up for you that you could be experiencing even right now through this process, if you're in this trap, is that you're getting pissed at Tom, one of your team members who made a mistake in an email to one of your clients, but it was like a small detail about the wrong date for the next meeting that's going to be happening in a few months, way down the line. But you're reacting to Tom as if he said "fuck you" to the client. And you realize afterwards, after you release, and that's the stress leaking out of the balloon, you realize that he really didn't need to deserve that. And after it happens, and you're just like, oh shit, I knew better. And so now what happens for the recovery is you have to create another meeting, and you got to take time away from other work to resolve your own mistake that you created. So that's one way that it can be more difficult for your life. Another one could be isolating from your friends. I move around with Adriana multiple times in the year to different places, and my friends, they live in different parts of the country. So I stay connected through text message, voice messages, calls. But if I notice a few days go by and I'm resistant to reaching out to my friends, that's a signal for me now. In the past, I just stay isolated, and then that's a way of the stress leaking out. And for me, it's a signal that I'm not addressing the buildup of the pressure, right? Something's coming up. I'm fearful. I don't feel safe. So then I'm not reaching out to other people and I'm actively avoiding my friends who would actually help me to feel better. Right. And if you don't have those friends that are helping you to feel better, then it might be time for new friends. Something to think about. So that's another way that it can leak for the stress. And then the last one I want to share with you is that you then don't have clarity on your next move. That's where you can have the brain fog that hits, or the overwhelming feelings. Mine could even be pinballing all over the place. But this is where you wake up past your alarm. You have a harder time getting out of bed. It feels too comfortable to get out. Just like, this is nice and warm in here. I want to stay in my bed. And then in the day, you start researching how to optimize your productivity in the workday. Spend 4 hours doing that rather than just figuring out the next move in your business. And by the end of the day, you're like, what the hell did I even do with my day? That can come up. So this trap can waste so much time, energy, and money for you. And now I want to share with you that new insight that can help you out. The new insight for the pressure balloon model and to strengthen your decision making. It's giving the space to interpret your emotion, to figure out what change in behavior it's asking for. Because again, it's a signal of showing you the way. It's not getting in the way. It's reminding yourself that your body is on your team. These nearly 40 trillion cells are there to support what you want. Yes, it's there to protect you, but it's for you to tell the body what to protect, where you want to go towards, for the direction, for the business, and then for your overall quality of life. So thinking back to anger, I'll bring that back into focus. It's figuring out like, why am I feeling this? And that's asking you, okay, thinking back to anger, I feel this in the day. Is it because I'm hangry? Is it someone went against my values of mine? Or am I working on a new burnout proof habit? Is it something else I'm not even thinking about? Or is it all three? So it's giving your space to interpret what the hell this emotion is trying to tell you. So I think back as another time where, thinking back for another time to strengthen my decision making, it was earlier in the year. And using this new process and sequence really helped. Early in the year, I saw a live on Instagram from Jesse Itzler, who is a co-founder of this health and fitness event, Running Man. Someone in the live asked him a question of like, how do I speak at the event? And he said, reach out to the team. I heard that, and I got this pressure that came up in my body, and then I put a meaning on that. which the meaning for me was it's possible that I could actually do this. Like possibility, like this could happen. Fuck yeah, like I could do this because of the experience that I had with speaking. Then the doubt and the fear flooded in. So in that moment, this is where I had to give myself the extra time to let the emotions come to the surface and to feel them. This process, it doesn't have to take long, right? It could be a few seconds. But this is where you can ask yourself, okay, if the meaning, this is where you ask yourself, is this meaning that you're putting onto something actually supporting you? That's like, what's that meaning? And then what's the meaning you're putting on the emotions? And then change your behavior, right? Because for me, instead of staying stuck in the emotions of the fear and the doubt, I felt those. And then I realized, okay, these fears that I have, this doubt, it does not support me. I go back to that initial feeling, the initial meaning I had, which was, oh, it's possible I can do this. I came back to that. That felt supportive. And so instead of me getting stuck in the emotions, shutting the door, feeling, that stress building up in my body and then moving on to something else, like, all right, I'll move on. I won't come back to this. Instead of all of that, I felt all those feelings and then I made the decision. I sent the email to the team. And now I'm speaking on a panel in front of the biggest speaking opportunity ever of over 1,000 people on September 12th and 14th near Rome, Georgia. So this process, it happens so fast going through all that sequences, right? It could be, as I said, a few seconds, it could be a few minutes, maybe even a little bit longer as you're getting started with this. But with more repetitions, it speeds up. And that is where you can hear other people calling this connecting to their gut feeling. That can come up for a connection to this process. But then if you give an extra few seconds to focus on these questions, you create the space with your emotions. So that's how you can imagine it, or thinking about it in this way. Imagine sitting at a bus stop, and then the cars that are going by along the road in front of you, those are your emotions. That's you giving space to them. So you'll be able to see clearly what the emotions are trying to signal to you. Rather than what can happen when you're stuck in it is you're in the car. Now the emotions, it can feel overwhelming. And then you shut the door on them and you're never able to really understand what they're trying to tell you because you've shut them out. Does that make sense? And if you haven't done this a lot, it can feel really intense. I want to share with you that process because or I want to share with you 2 habits that can help you to create more space if it's feeling very overwhelming or very intense. So if it does feel very intense, your emotion, when you're feeling your emotions for the first time, it's because, or not first time, but feeling your emotions, it's intense. The reason could be it's unfamiliar to you. It hasn't become a habit of feeling the emotions. And instead you have the habit of slamming the door in the face of these emotions. So the 2 habits that you can use to release the pressure, going back to that balloon, to release the pressure out of the balloon and give you more space to interpret these emotions so that you're sitting on the bus stop or at the bus stop rather than being in the car in these emotions. One is moving, going for a walk without tech. That's helpful, going outside, changing your environment to give yourself that space. And then the other one is stillness without tech. So it's going to a quiet room and taking a few deep breaths. And then when you've given yourself, when it doesn't feel as intense, that is where you can ask questions about your emotions. What's the meaning you've put on these emotions? What is the meaning that you have? Is it supportive of it for you, for what you want? And then figuring out what change is required for the behavior to move forward, to make the decision and follow through on that decision. I want to remind you, if you haven't heard yet today, that I believe in you. You have the ability to master one of the most important skills for entrepreneurs, which is communication with your body. It really can help you to avoid wasting a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of money as you're working on your business. You got this.